What is up, everybody? I am just waiting for the time I had said, which is 7:23. Once that 7:23 rolls around, we can get started. Um, how's everybody doing? I'm doing fine. I'm just been working through this all day to make sure that I can get it as close to perfect as possible. It's not perfect, but it's as close to perfect as I'm gonna get at this point. So we'll just start with that. Let's see here. All right, so let's see here. Just one more minute to go. As we said, it starts at 7:23. So I'm still just waiting for that to roll around. While I am doing that, when you get it, if you have a chance right now, go to my YouTube channel, button mash programming, and smash that like button. Um, Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Let's try to get this. Let's try to get this channel out there. Alrighty, it is now 7:23. We can get this started. What is up, everybody? It is now 7:23 p.m. I am gonna get this segment started. Basically, this is a new segment I'm starting. I wanted to separate more so the videos between me assigning the work and the videos of me actually teaching the lesson. So it gives you an opportunity to work through it. And if you've learned something already, I don't want the videos to be so long. So we're going to try to make, this is possibly a way to make some of them a little more shorter so you can get to the point of what you need to. Alright, so what I had assigned in the last lesson earlier today was I had, for the segment called Test Your Might, as in Mortal Kombat, we just basically just to test yourself. I wanted you to generate a loop. Okay, I wanted you to generate a loop that will go to 100 using the for loop. Using the for loop that will count to 100 by twos, so it would only go through the even numbers. So how I did that? So, how I did that, and I gave you guys the hint that and the percent symbol means divide by 2 is equal to 0. Basically, dividing by 2 should equal 0, so we know 2 is an even number. And 2 is the first even number, so it will start counting by 2's. So, how I initiated this was for integer I is equal to 1. I is less than or equal to 20, and then followed by the semicolon, and as it was back here, I plus plus, so meaning add one, increment I by 1 each time, but do not exceed 20, and start with 1. This seems not to be the one I was working on, but it's okay. So the only thing that's really missing from this is we need to put in an if statement, and the if statement will actually go within our for statement. So here's actually kind of where both statements are used together. So how we can do this is we say if I all right, so all I needed to really add was that there. And essentially also I'm going to add another bracket at the end. So what this does, and just to explain, within my for loop, I have an if statement. So here is where the for statement begins, and here is where the for statement ends. Within that, I have an if statement. The if statement says that I divided by 2 should equal 0. So it's basically saying let's increment, and I apologize, I said 100. Let's increment, let's count all the way to 100, counting by 2's. And another thing we can do, because we can either write this on the same line or we can write it on separate lines, but we can say I, comma, I apologize, just give me 1 second. I, quotations in between, and a comma. So essentially, I have no idea why it's doing this. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry about that. It's I plus, so I plus a comma. So basically it's just saying write the integer, then write a comma after that, so that it's not grouped all together. So just to show you what this code looks like, and as I showed you before, I'll show you this again. Control F5. And as you can see, 2, 4, 6, 8, now it counts all the way to 100. 100 being the last number, by 2's, and separates them each by a comma. Pretty cool. So, as you can see, why this is useful is if you're playing a game and you're trying to if you're creating a game or creating some software, you're trying to generate something that repeats itself only a certain amount of times, this is where the for loop becomes useful. So again, closed my if statement here. This is where my if statement, open the function, said what the if statement's going to do within the function, and here's my for statement, my conditions for my for statement, and I've closed my for statement after I've closed my if statement, because the if statement is within the for statement. All right, perfect. So that is the first portion of the segment Test Your Might. Now, I also have another challenge I gave to you guys, but there's one other thing I want to show you. So if I write console.writeLine instead of console.write, I want to show you guys what that does now. And I believe I know we talked about this the last lesson, but it's just nice to show you guys. See, and it puts each number on a separate line, followed by a comma. You can also remove the comma by removing the plus and the comma sign. The plus and the quotations and the comma sign. All right. So the next portion of this was I asked you guys to create basically to create an average calculator that has if statements in it. I wanted it, now I didn't make this very clear, but I wanted it to prompt the user to enter in the first grade, the second grade, the third grade, the fourth grade, and the fifth grade, but it can enter as many grades as you want, and create a letter grade based on show the user the average of the fifth grade and create a letter based grade based on what their average was. So how we do this is we create we create 6 integers. The first integer, saying GA, this one right here, I put it as meaning grade average. The second one is grade 1. So what is the assignment for the first grade? What is the mark for the first grade? Mark for first grade. and then so on. Mark for the second grade, mark for the third grade, mark for the all the way to 5. I chose 5 just because I've done this before with 10 of them, and it's just really, it's quite the long formula. And what I want to recommend to you guys, first and foremost, I made this mistake at the beginning when I was learning how to code, and I really, really don't recommend doing it. I don't recommend copying the line and repeating it and just changing numbers around while you're first learning this. Why don't I recommend doing this? Well, essentially, you're taking away something from yourself through doing that. What you're taking away from yourself is the experience of learning and remembering how to do these things. Now, the key to remembering how to do things and remembering these lines of codes, and you won't always need to remember them, but it's useful to remember them. The key to remembering is it's repetitiveness and making those side notes. So again, if you're just trying to get the idea, yeah, you can copy and paste every time, but I recommend highly writing it each out. So, as I said, the first thing we did was we created a grade. We created a integer for grade average, and we created 5 integers representing the grades. So the first thing we want to do is we want to prompt for the first assignment. And as I told you before, is we want to prompt, meaning ask the user, how do we write that to the line? We say console.writeLine, and please enter the first grade. We just tell the user that says all they're going to see out of this is enter the first grade. So after the user has entered the first grade, what this is going to do now, it's going to take the first grade that the user has entered, convert it to the convert it to a number, convert it to the number value that the user has entered, and input the information to the console. Now, the next thing is to prompt for assignment 2, prompt for the second assignment. So you're going to see that this is really, really repetitive code. And see, now we've prompted for the second one. We've received the user's input. So the console received the user's input. And we do that all the way 1 through 5. Okay? So again, receive the user's, prompt the user to input their grade, their second grade. Receive the user's inputs. Receive the user's input for the second grade. Prompt the user again for the third grade. Receive the input for the third grade, and repeat as many times as you've written this. Now, we wanted to calculate the average. Now, something to remember to take away from code is that whatever you are putting in usually happens in the order that it is written in. So because it's saying, I apologize, because now that we have the grade average, now that we have written all the grades down, we wanted to calculate the grade average. Now here is where remembering your math becomes really useful. So we have grade average is equal to, in brackets, grade 1 plus grade 2 plus grade 3 plus grade 4 plus grade 5. Now this one is very literal, unlike anything we've done with console.writeLine before, because it is not, we're not writing to the line, we're making the system calculate this, and then we're dividing by 5. I cannot emphasize enough to remember math with BEDMAS. What happens first in BEDMAS? So remember, brackets, brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. Okay? So, because we want the adding to happen before we divide it by 5, we want to place the grade calculations, the grade additions in brackets. Then we want to divide it by 5. And then we follow that with a semicolon. The next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was, again, now we want this to print to the console so the user sees this information. So it's not just there, we obviously want the user to see it. So how we would do that, there's one of two ways we can do that. We can write console.writeLine. We can write console.writeLine. The total grade average is, and we put the 0% 0 within two squiggly brackets and the percent sign, comma GA, so it knows to put the grade average in this space here. Or the way I personally prefer to do it, just because of basic logic of what we've been learning thus far, is console.writeLine. The total grade average is, and then that's in the quote, that's in the notation. So actually, you know what? Let's comment this out so you can see what this looks like. Okay, so in quotations we have the total grade average is plus grade average plus the percentage. So this basically means the same thing as this. I just prefer this method because this is easier to explain. So the total grade average is, and it's going to input the grade average here, and it's going to input the percent symbol after the grade average. The next portion is where our if statements come, and our else if, and our else statements come. So the first thing we want to do is we want to compare the average to determine the letter grade A. Now, one thing I haven't shown you before, and I'm so sorry because it's something I assigned homework for, but I didn't actually explain one thing. And more so, the symbol, the ampersand symbols, the two ampersand symbols represent and, the word and. So think of the, obviously one ampersand symbol means and in real language, in English language, sorry, not real language, in the English language, but two ampersand symbols in coding mean the same thing. So what this line is saying that if, and then we open our conditional brackets, within our conditional brackets we write grade average is less than or equal to 100, and grade average is greater than or equal to 90, and then we close our conditional brackets and open our functional brackets to show what happens if this is the case. Right, we want it to write to the console that between 100 and 90 is an A. So console.writeLine, you got an A. If the grade average is equal to 89, if the grade average is equal to or less than 89, and the grade average is greater than or equal to 70, then you got a B. Else if, and again we open up our conditional brackets, and like I explained before, the else if is usually between the if or the else statement. Else if has conditions, so if has conditions, and if we start our if statements with if statements, else if have other conditions. Our else is like, for anything else, do this, pretty much. So else if our grade average is less than or equal to 69 and grade average is greater than or equal to 60, then you got a C, and so on. So 59 and 50, between 59 and 50, they got a D, and between 49 and 0, they got 100. So They got it. Sorry, they got an F. I apologize. So the question becomes, what did we write in our else statement if that's the case? Well, this is where it gets a little more interesting. And I'm still trying to figure out what I did there. That is weird. Okay, anyways, sorry about that. That just looked really, really weird. And I'm trying to figure out what I was trying to do there, but I know what I was trying to do there. Now, that's why it was telling me there was an error, because it was saying, hey, what are you doing? Okay. And the answer, to answer the question, what I wrote in my else statement is, if anything else other than these conditions, so between 100 and 0, 0 and 100, if there's anything else that's higher or lower, the user had entered, you want it to display the user has entered an incorrect value. So we write the console, and then lastly, so basically, and sorry, I apologize, and then we close our function for their else statement. Lastly, we wanted to input to the user of what their grade average was. So we can say your grade average was plus this, because this is already going to tell the user what they got as a mark. I mean, as a letter value. So if we run this program, and again, I'm going to push Control F5 to do so. Okay, so enter your first grade. So we'll say 80%. Enter your second grade, 80%. Enter your third grade, 80%. Enter your fourth grade, 80%. Enter your fifth grade, 80. Your total grade average is 80%. You got a B. Your grade average is 80. So really, I didn't even need this last line here, to be honest with you. And we want to test it to, not only do we want to test a program to see if it's functioning correctly, but we want to also try to break it. And that's always something that is encouraged in code. So we want to see what happens if I try to enter 101. 101. So it's going to keep letting me enter in these values. But I'm going to show you what it does when it doesn't like it. And it's telling me right there, you've entered an incorrect value. Now later we will learn how to stop a user from entering in an invalid value, that the value must be between this and this number. So later we'll learn that, but this is just a lesson to show you how we use those the if statements, and how we used everything we've learned thus far into an equation, into basically something that we can actually use in calculating daily average, or just something else other than just showing you how to do something. So, thank you again for watching this video. That concludes this video. Thank you for joining the first segment in Test Your Might, and this was a video that I'll be attaching to my button mash programming as a 5.5 video, and this is kind of like a review and helps you see where you are and understanding of where you are with everything we've done thus far. I will continue to make videos, hopefully make a third video today, but we'll see if I'm up for that. But I will be making another video shortly. Alright, so again, search button mash programming, like and subscribe to my page. I'll be posting these videos if you missed them, so don't worry. They will be posted there as well as on my Twitch account. Alright, well thank you and have a good day everybody. Bye-bye.